It looks good to me.
All right, cool.
All right. And we live. Crypto companies need marketing. And because crypto is so volatile at times, right? And it's sometimes has gotten a bad rap just because of, some not so smart people doing things the wrong way. Make it bad for everybody. And so what and me and Wayne have come to the table together. We've been working together now for close to a year. I've got my company, Leduc Entertainment, that helps with all of the content creation for his crypto company, for his personal brand. And so we come out, we shoot all of his content, part of his podcast. And so I wanted to get with Wayne and I wanted to create a video that talked about how to market a crypto company. And so we'll start with, let's talk about FIO. What is FIO? And we'll kind of talk about what we've been doing with the brand and how we've been putting it out there. So tell me about FIO.
Yeah, man, great to be here. Actually, we got to correct you on one thing, though. It's actually been over a year, man. Time flies when you're having fun.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. It was like March or April of last year.
Really? Dang.
Yeah. And so, what FIO is we are a blockchain protocol. At our core, the company built basically a protocol to simplify sending and receiving digital assets. Now that's hard to understand unless you've actually sent crypto before. That was part of our dilemma, right? If you've never actually had to send any kind of cryptocurrency, whether it's Bitcoin or something else, and have to copy and paste those long wallet addresses, a lot of things can happen and go wrong. So we launched a protocol along with our own blockchain 4 years ago to create a system that simplifies that process. It makes sending any digital asset as easy as sending an email and safe. Right, you can't send a wrong address. You can't send on the wrong blockchain, which is a problem. And so there's other parts of our protocol, but it's all centered around simplifying that user process. We have another part that allows you to send kind of like a decentralized payment request, which I believe, Armando, that's how you've been requesting payments, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So you can send a payment request for any cryptocurrency, any amount, put a memo what it's for, like it referencing an invoice. And then when the recipient gets the request, they approve it just like they would a PayPal or Venmo, but it's in a completely decentralized environment and it works across platforms. So you could send it from your Edge wallet and I can open another wallet that supports FIO requests and approve it.
Yeah. Look, it was one of these things that, Wayne is an early adopter. I would consider myself an early adopter, not as quick, but I'm definitely on the bandwagon, right? Read Broken Money to your recommendation. Nice. What a long book, but a really good book.
Worth it.
But it is worth it. Talked about, how what the history of the currency is and what it, how he thinks that how crypto is going to be relevant in the future. And look, perfect example, Venezuela, who's going through this, crisis right now. You're looking at a potential migration event, right? Where people are going to leave. And in the book, they talked about, well, what are they going to do? They're not going to bring their cars and their furniture. And, they're going to bring what they have with them. And then hopefully they'll, turn their money into either Bitcoin, or some sort of crypto in order for them to take that with them. And so that was sort of eye-opening for me when I was sort of on the fence about crypto. And I was like, I see why this is going to be important in the future, right? And why more and more people are going to adopt this. And so as we are growing into this crypto space, I was talking to Wayne and I said, why are we not seeing more crypto companies marketing, their protocols, the things that they do? One could be startup, two could be maybe they don't understand the process, three, maybe they don't see the value in it. Maybe they're like, this is only for early adopters, so I'm just going to continue to go to conferences because conferences are where all of my people in Tribar, and we're all having the conversations, right? And then you have your Discord and things like that. So my argument to Wayne was, well, if you're creating content on a regular basis, and it doesn't matter what your business is, right? Could be a plumbing company, could be a lawyer, could be, a real estate investor or real estate agent. If you want to show the health of a company these days, right? What are you going to do? Well, you have Google My Business reviews, which is great. You may have your website. Nobody's going to your website, right? Like you need to have it, but it's not necessarily a place where people are. It's not a community. It's not where people are getting information. And so I was like, well, content marketing and educating people, I believe, is one of the best ways, especially in a digital form, which cryptocurrency is digital money, right? Why are we not going all in on creating content that speaks to your consumer in a way that educates them and creates that authority, credibility, and trust, right? And so we started creating content around FIO in over a year, right? And it's a consistent, it's a long game strategy, but it is a worthwhile foundational strategy that isn't a get rich quick scheme. And here's the deal, because there's so much pump and dump, because there's so much of that thought process in crypto, it's like, oh, we're just going to get there quick, hike it up, and then we're going to all bail. That's the thought process. So people are like, to the moon. Why are we not thinking about this more in long term, right? Which you have done. So maybe you can speak to that in terms of why you decided that going in on this was a good strategy.
Yeah, so a couple things, and it was right at a little over a year ago as well that I took over our marketing department at FIO. We had separate departments. We had someone leaving, and I decided to take it over. And not to knock, the predecessor, because she was working with the resources she had, but it's very much seemed like social media was just an announcement board, and that doesn't really garner much engagement. You keep people informed of what's going on, but it doesn't really do a whole lot. And in this space, we kind of have one hand tied behind our back, because where other companies can pay for Facebook ads and Google ads, it's been a roller coaster ride in the crypto industry with that, because there's been bans on anything related to blockchain and crypto. Then they've released those bans, but then when you still try to run ads, it doesn't really go through. You can't get anything approved. So it's very hard through those traditional channels, Facebook, Instagram, Google, to get those ads across. So that's kind of limiting you initially. So your option is organic content. And so that's when you and I talked, it made sense, because I see what happens to the Gary V's of the world. Not every video is going to go viral, and it doesn't need to. Most of them in the beginning don't get a whole lot of traction. And even today, some of them don't get a whole lot of traction right now, but there's just the consistency of, I hear it when I talk to people. I hear it when I'm talking to partners. If anything, it's helped us to close a lot more partnerships, because we're constantly in their face, right? We talk to them, and then they're constantly seeing our content out there again and again and again, to where, I get told when I'm at conferences, it's either, man, you travel everywhere, and I really like the content you guys are putting out, or that last reel you put out was pretty funny. And I get asked questions about that, and it's really, you're right. It really can show the viability of a project, because if you have a company or project that's maybe posting once or twice a week, you got to wonder, is this just like a lights on only type of thing? Like they're just doing barely enough to keep the lights on, or are they healthy? And if you see those things happening where you've got content coming, especially good quality produced content, I do some of my own organically by myself, but a lot of what we shoot in the studio, that just shows that, okay, this has some viability. It has some this company, and we're also building a reputation, because you guys have helped us put out not just stuff about FIO, right, but educational content, facts and info about the industry that people can kind of like, they see our information, and you're building basically a reputation score with people the more and more they see you consistently putting out content.
Yeah. And so I wanted to not just kind of give you guys an overview, but I kind of wanted to give you guys some like actual actionable items that you guys can do right now that you can take and start putting into action. And here's what we figured out here in our company, what the threshold is for people to get this aha moment where they start to understand, oh, okay, there's something to this. And that's 50 pieces of content, right? 50 video pieces of content. When you, after 50, sometimes it happens before, but right around the fifth, when you do 50 pieces of content, it becomes a thing, right? And then you're no longer part of that imposter syndrome. You're no longer debating whether this works. You're just past that, and you create that. You get to that epiphany, and you're like, okay. So from here on out, now we can get creative. Now we can start really going in and pushing the gas. So here's some things that you guys can do. You guys can go to all of the crypto companies that are doing things on YouTube right now. I would look at probably your top most viewed videos, and it's pretty easy. Like, so I'm on YouTube right now. I would just search crypto news, and I would start there, right? And you got crypto banter. Do you know who this guy is?
Yeah, we actually just hanging out in Nashville.
There you go, right? So crypto banter right here, his views are for 42,000 views, 22,000 views, 66,000 views. And he's talking about, different things, breaking news. This could ruin the crypto bull market, buying your first crypto safely, more money fast. Pro crypto traders share their experiences. And so here's the thing about when you don't have to overthink it, right? I think that people are trying to get too creative in coming up with what the content should be about, and I don't think that you should really think about that. I think you should go over here, figure out what people are already watching, take these headlines, right, which is not, you're not plagiarizing the headlines, you're just taking the headlines that people are already looking for, and then you can get creative from your perspective of answering that question, right? Because Wayne's experiences in the crypto field are going to be much different than Joe's experience or Emily's experience, right? They might be saying the same things, but the way in which they say it, the experience from where they're speaking from is different. And so I think too many people are caught up with, oh, there's a saturated market. Oh, why do people want to hear from me? Oh, all of the excuses as to why they shouldn't create content when they should be focused on just create the content. And so this is a very easy way to know that the content you're creating is already being searched. So go to YouTube, and this is what we do for our clients, right? So I'm just giving you guys the inside track of what we do. Is we're going to YouTube, we're looking up all of Wayne's competitors, and we're giving Wayne, hey Wayne, check out all of these headlines. This is what people are looking for. These are the questions that we should be answering, right? That way you're in the river. You're already in the river of people looking for this stuff. Google has Google right now, if you search something, it will also give you 6 or 7 what else are people asking within that question, right? Take those headlines, make those videos. Take those headlines, make those videos. So it's super easy, right? You guys don't even have to think about it. The barrier to entry here is you, right? And your own hangups and your own imposter syndrome. And I think also people are like, oh, I need to go get a camera. I need to go get a podcast microphone. I need to go get the roadie. And it's just more things that prevent you from actually doing the content.
You start with this, right?
That's it, right? And Wayne, Wayne's a perfect example. And you get, the more you do it, the easier it becomes, right? And so part of why I say, hey, create 50 pieces of content is because after you create the 50 pieces of content, you're past this, like I said, that imposter syndrome. So step 1, look up your competitors. I promise you there are people in your space that are already killing it. They're already doing like amazing. People are following them. Go to their YouTube channels, look up what they're talking about, grab some of those headlines, and then give us your perspective. And look, it's going to be awkward at first, right? Do you remember when you first put out content, Wayne?
My first podcast in 2018 was pretty rough.
Yeah, right? Like it's all rough, right?
And then I had my wife in the other room when I got done. She's like, you say a lot. I was like, all right.
Yeah. Look, and you just, I think what happens, I don't think what happens. I know what happens is you get past that point. We learn in 4 phases. You have unconscious incompetence. This is where you don't know what you don't know because you haven't learned it yet. Then you have conscious incompetence. This is where you're aware of what you don't know, your flaws, right? It's super awkward still. Then you have conscious competence. This is where you're doing things correctly, but you're still having to think about it. And then you get to unconscious competence. This is where you're doing things without having to think about it, right? It just becomes second nature. When Wayne gets on a podcast, he goes on autopilot, right? Like he's not even thinking about this. When we're going live here, I'm not going, what am I talking about here, right? We were talking because I was saying, man, we got to do this webinar on like creating, marketing for crypto companies. And we overthought it for like a few weeks. And I was like, dude, why don't we just get on a call and start talking, right? Like we don't have to overthink this, And so now, and here we are, hopefully building value. Hopefully you guys will take action, because I would love to see, more of this mass adoption. And the only way that's going to happen is through education, because there's too many people out there that don't understand what crypto is, how it works. And because people are ignorant, they're going to think it's bad, right? Because we're all trying to justify the stories in our heads. And then that confirmation bias is a mofo, right? So you cannot create, we have to be the ones to educate in order for people to adopt something.
Yeah. You also have to overcome, those biases you're talking about. It's in the media, because the media, when they talk about crypto, only recent has there been a little bit of positivity because of what's happening in politics. But outside of that, when's the last time that you heard, forget about just crypto in general, last time you saw the news report on a feel good story? The mainstream media has identified that people's fears and negativity is what draws people in, right? That's what gets people's attention. So that's what they're playing to, because it's no longer about reporting news. It's about how many views can we get? How can we get the bigger audiences? So it's not really about truth anymore. And
Right.
so that's why, like what you're talking about, we could become the source of truth, because there could be a piece that the media puts out that maybe has a negative spin on it. And one of those videos that you do could easily be your perception on it. Like, what is it? Like, what do you really think it is? Right. Giving that insight that they're not going to get from mainstream media. And that's kind of what I see. And, Armando, one thing I love like about what you do, whenever you and I were looking at working together, I saw one of the, kind of the offerings that you had, and it was very much similar in the ethos of like in our space. Like we're very much open source communities, to where if someone wants to build with our protocol at FIO, they can do it without even consulting, because everything's there. They can get done. Now, obviously, if they get with us, they'll get help. But you kind of give a roadmap for people. Hey, if you want to do it yourself, this is what you should do. But then you offer kind of the packages of where you are. And us, a year ago, we at the time, with the market wasn't that great. We didn't have a really good marketing budget, but we were able to come up with some compromise to where you were able to help us create a ton of content. And then also we were able to supplement that with some additional things, some of the other podcasts that I was already recording. And so it gives you all of those, all of those different options. And that's what I like, because it's not everybody's at the same place, but I think everybody could use some help, because I realized really, really quickly, it's kind of it's a struggle to take on, even with a team of like, a few people, to be able to build a mass amount of social content. But there's other ways to streamline it, like you've shown us.
Yeah. And look, I think it's framing too. When I met you, I was at a crypto meetup, and like you were the guy, right? Like of all the people that were there, it was like blockchain Wayne, and like everybody's talking, yada, yada, yada. And then some people are like, okay, what does Wayne think about this? Right. And so you've positioned yourself right within the community as the voice, as a trusted voice, right? As the thought leader. And that's what we're talking about here is how do we get our company, how do we get our protocol, our project to the point where people view us as a trusted source? And it does not come from ads and and that methodology of just like, oh, I'm just going to spend money on ads and like reach
Yeah.
without depth. Because if you have
Right.
reach without depth, you're not going to close. Because at the end of the day, when you go and you ask for the money, you go and you ask for the sale, it is always the same. And that is, do I trust this company? Do I trust this person to take me where I want to go with what they're promising? And here's the deal. If you're not creating content, if you're not creating educational material, if you're not creating value, if you're not viewed as the thought leader and as the authority, you can't close deals. You just can't. Right? Like that's the problem. Like we can try to paint the picture of what your company is, but at the end of the day, the fact is, do you know what you're talking about? And is your project or is your company legit? And if it's not, then that's the problem, right? The problem isn't you creating content. The problem is you don't have a good product.
Well, yeah. And what I've seen in this space, Armando, is that basically you have, I've seen some projects like, let's call it, I'm not saying all meme coins are garbage, but a lot of them are. And a lot of these other tokens that just pop up overnight. But they do a really good job of hyping up the community and building engagement. And a lot of that's through a lot of silly things like memes. And they also do a little bit of education. So I see, quote unquote, I guess what I would call garbage projects that probably aren't going to last the test of time, that are really good at building community and getting at marketing out there, but it eventually flops. And then on the flip side, what we're kind of, what we're looking to reach are the legitimate projects, the projects that solve real problems, that have real solutions. But and a lot of times, a lot of these founders, a lot of those companies or projects are on the tech side. So they understand how to build the tech, but how do you get it to market? So we've got two sides of the coin. You got one where it's garbage projects that do great at marketing, but they're not going to last. And others, the ones that we're talking to, are the ones that are build a great product, but we're not able to reach our audience. And that was my problem taking over first business development with FIO, and then encompassing the whole growth side of the business with some other departments, was people don't know who we are, what we do. And there's still some challenges with that, but that's where, what we're doing here and what we're talking about is helping to give that. I still get the questions at some conferences, what is FIO? What do you guys do? But it's starting to be less and less because we've got, there's a lot more people looking at our content. I see they're hitting them. They're not even looking to follow FIO, but they realize that we're consistently putting out some educational content or putting out good insights on the market itself. And it's not just about every video being out, what is FIO? What do we do? What is FIO? What do we do? It's not all about that. It's how do we engage? And then when they find out who we are, then they look into what we do.
Yeah. I will say, if you guys want to shortcut because I know everybody's looking for a shortcut, but if you're looking for quick ROI and you're looking for something that is going to give you that sort of that it's just a shortcut, right? If you want a shortcut, I would recommend creating a podcast, and I would recommend the people that you have on the podcast be people that either can increase your social currency by being on your podcast. That's one. Two, look at joint venture partnerships. So look at all of the people that are in your space. Look at the things that you do well. Look at the things that other people do well. Look at complementing businesses where you can go, hey, I see what's happening. Let me provide this service over here. And then you can come in over here and create that joint venture. So perfect example here with me and Wayne, right? Creating this joint venture here. I'm not a crypto company, right? I know how to help crypto companies. he knows he's in the crypto space. He is the authority. He's the credibility. He's the trusted advisor here, right? It would make sense for me to create a joint venture with him, because now if we come together, we can both benefit, right? Because I can help with the marketing end, he can help as the authority, and then we can both profit as a result. And so if you're looking to, 10x, there's a book called 10x is easier than 2x by Dan Sullivan. And I'm all about that these days. I'm like, okay, who are the people that I need to bring into my life right now that can exponentially grow my business? I will tell you, the first podcast that I ever did was during COVID. And I invited my friend Lewis, who now owns this company called 8-Figure Firm. And I just asked him about his company in the podcast. Hey, how's it going? What did you do? How did you become so successful? This is when he was running a personal injury firm, that like was hitting multi 8 figures. And so he told me everything. And then like 3 months later, ends up hiring me to come do content for him. And then along with it, referred me to a bunch of his clients, right? So off of one person that came onto my podcast, I grew, 8, 10, 12 clients from one person, right? And this is what this is why I preach, creating a podcast, as content for your social media, because it's so easy, because it's a conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're giving a platform to your joint ventures, the person that you respect. One, you're going to learn a bunch of stuff, right, from somebody that knows more than you. 2, you're creating a connection with that person. 3, there's opportunity for joint venture. 4, there's opportunity for referrals. 5, you're going to get content from it. I mean, it's just like it is such an easy thing. And I think people's thought process on podcasts is that, oh, who's going to watch my podcast? What's the viewership going to be like? Nobody's going to watch your podcast. Number one, nobody is going to watch your podcast, right? Unless you hit 100 episodes and you're like, once again, entrenched. That's when you're going to start seeing the traction. But I wouldn't create the podcast with that in mind. I would create the podcast strictly for connection, business development, joint venture partnerships, and referral partnerships, along with creating content that's consistent, right? That you can put on YouTube, Spotify, the whole 9. So it's a very easy like switch from that. I've created a podcast community on Skool, Skool, called the Podcast Producers Club. So if you guys are, wanting to connect with other podcasters, Wayne also has a podcast called No Crypto to No Crypto, KNOW, right? From no to KNOW. But maybe you can talk about your experience with your podcast and how it's helped you.
Man, so I guess I go back 8 years to when I started it, man, because 8 years ago, I was learning about this space and I felt like, okay, I may not be an expert, but, and this is where the imposter syndrome comes in. People have to realize if you learn something, chances are you can teach that to the other person. As long as you don't pass yourself as an expert from day one, you can share what you learn. And so from there, it went from, man, I'd like to find my space in this industry. I was working in a completely different career, corporate type job, not really even in the tech industry. And I was like, you know what? I would love to work in this space, but what do I have to offer? I'm not an engineer. I'm not a developer. But I know I'm really good at coaching and teaching and developing others. So I started doing the podcast. And just to fast forward to shorten this story, is that led me to working with different projects to help them create their educational content, which then led me to putting on some conferences in Miami. And some of those sponsors that we met through those conferences have become business partners. And FIO is one of those sponsors in both of those events I threw in 2021, which led me to one, hey, let me start helping you with some of your content. To, okay, I'm going to go full time. I'll be running business development with this. And it was 2.5, almost 3 years ago, it was leaving that 24-year corporate career to do this full time. And so that's just the beginning, because since then, the podcast has been, sponsored by FIO. I run the marketing department. It would only make sense that I would have FIO as our sponsor. But what that has led to is enhancing existing partnerships by bringing them on the podcast and getting content It has led to solidifying some partnership deals that were in the works, and that helped close it by doing that content, some of that marketing, and then reaching new clients, new partners. Because our protocol, we're looking for end users, but we're also looking for other companies and projects that want to use our protocol within their products because it enhances their product, it makes the user experience easier, and there's revenue in it for our partners. So it's led to so many things. I would say between the podcast and me attending events, it's hard to gauge what comes from where, but the combination of those two, for a while in our business development team, we were closing maybe one, maybe two partnerships a month, and now it's averaging 5 to 7 at least, of projects that want to use our protocol, and a lot of that has started with coming on the podcast or getting someone that I was interested in doing business with say, hey, come on, let's create some content. And that's also a way to reach new markets because I feel we're in an echo chamber. If I just post to the FIO community on social media right now, you typically you get a little bit reach further beyond that existing community and followers, but it's not as much as if, hey, I'm partnering with this other company or project and this person to do a podcast. And then when we share the clips and all those little short reels we're talking about, we're tagging them as well. So we're reaching their community as well. And so it gives you an exposure to a new audience because they get exposure to our audience. We get exposure to theirs. So it's kind of a win-win. I think we could probably go on and on about the benefits of that. But yeah, long term, it led me to working in this industry full time. And then in the short term, it's really helped us close a lot of partnerships.
Yep. Yep. I mean, mic drop there. Yeah, the benefits are plenty. I heard a phrase at one of the masterminds that I'm a part of called Flight Club. And one of the speakers there said, sloppy execution is better than perfect procrastination. And when I heard that, I was just like, yeah, it just hit, right? It just hit because I was like, yes, it's all about taking action, right? Like, sure, we can sit and we can pontificate and we can have a brainstorm all day, but it's the action that we take over time that creates greatness, right? Like, how was the pyramid built, right? The Empire State Building, like these things were built because they were consistent across time. And that's that when you start thinking about time in terms of 5 and 10 years and not necessarily like yearly and what does my month look like, now we're talking about building something that's sustainable. I was just on a podcast today with a personal injury attorney, Brandon Dawson, who hit 8 figures in revenue, and we had a discussion where he had to go through all of that work, right? Personally, through the business. And it took a while for him to understand what it feels like to run an 8-figure business, right? If he were to put, if we were to put him into $100 million business right now, he may or may not succeed at it, right? Like, more than likely he may not succeed at it, right? And that's why you have a bunch of these one-hit wonders that like come out with a song that like they just overnight they became successful and they're gone just as quickly, right?
No.
But people that have worked and have learned and put in the work and took the risks, they're now entrenched in it, and they're like, yes, I deserve to be here. There is no imposter syndrome, right? Because they put the work in.
Yeah. And wasn't it, I don't remember exact timeline, but I always remember hearing Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V, say that he was consistently putting out content for quite a while before he could even get 10, 15, 20 views on his content. But he just kept consistently putting it out. And that kind of resonated with me because everybody wants to make content for views. Oh, you feel good about views. Views don't give you anything. I would rather 100 targeted views of people that are really interested in what I'm doing than 1 million views that don't really lead to anything.
100%.
And so that's why it's important not to focus so much on the number because that consistency will get you there. Even today, I mean, we'll put out some videos that don't get a lot of traction. Like, okay, we learned from that. What did we do? What didn't we do? But then you also may find out, hey, the right 5 or 10 people I was hoping to reach may have saw that video. And so it doesn't matter if it has 1 million views, but it is.
How many people do you know? How many influencers do you know that have millions of followers and they're not making any money. Like
Yeah.
they don't know how to monetize that attention. That's
Right.
another thing
Yep.
too. It's like, you know, creating the content for viewership and entertainment is one thing. Creating content for education, value build, and positioning is a whole nother thing. Right.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
think people are too focused on the metrics and the vanity metrics and not necessarily on the content that they're producing and getting better at it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it's also important to understand, especially in our industry, that you have to be posting cross platform, right? Because in our space, like our Facebook account could be shut down immediately. Like our TikTok got shut down twice already. We don't know why. No reason why. We're not shilling anything. We're not telling people to buy anything, but it's
Yeah.
just something triggered it. So having that content on other platforms as well, it's important to have. And I've learned this recently, since you got me to start focusing more on social media, was even if a new platform comes out, create an account on that platform if you don't plan on using it yet. Because if not, you may have somebody that'll squat, like create an account, pretend to be you, and get out there. But it's also
Valid.
a lot easier to cross post. Like if I've got a content that's already formatted for TikTok, I can go to Facebook Reels, Instagram Reels, and now there's some other not as mainstream platforms that the content can live there. I know a lot of people that were having trouble with YouTube getting shut down are now building on Rumble as well. And so it's important to have that those multiple platforms too, because you run a risk. I mean, if you're speaking truth, sometimes it makes people uncomfortable, and sometimes if those people you're making uncomfortable, the ones that are running the platform, you could find your account maybe shut down. So that's why it's important to have those multiple platforms and funnel people in the community. Like for us, it's Discord, Telegram, and our email list. Right, that's the
Yeah.
three things that we try to get people on, because even if we get shut down, we still have a way to reach our audience.
Yeah. I think it's and look, creating community I think is important, right? Because you want to pull the community offline as quickly as possible so that you have them in your tribe, right? On your email list, on WhatsApp groups, things like that like, okay, yeah, these are these are the people that we're going to bring together in order to take it to the next level. So that's a whole nother conversation on how to, like, bring in people with your attention and then what to do with that attention once you have it. That is a conversation for another day, but we're going to have to wrap up because I've got to, speaking of podcasts, I got another podcast here in 6 minutes. So reach out to me, reach out to Wayne. If you're looking to, start marketing your crypto company, if you want to look at marketing your business in general and you need, some first steps, I'm all about, giving you the tools that you need to be successful, and then once you start seeing the results, then let's add some gas and push it.
Absolutely.
Any other parting notes?
That's it. I would just say, I mean, definitely it can be overwhelming to think that you have to like shoot, produce, and post all of this content. And like Armando said, definitely don't overthink it. I mean, I can grab my phone, I can shoot a quick video and post it today. It doesn't necessarily have to be everything professionally edited, but there's tools out there. There's agencies like Leduc Entertainment that can help you create those scripts, that content, and do those shoots to where you have, what we do is shoot every few months, and from that we get a ton of content that's being put out. And then also, I mean, and you even talk about it too, leveraging some of the AI tools to get that content out,
Yeah.
auto captions and video editing stuff that can help you as well, because it's all about hitting that, like you said, that 50 video benchmark is easy to hit in 1 month if you got the right tools and the right help.
That's right. That's right. Wayne, I appreciate you. Thank you guys for watching. I'm going to start doing more lives. So I'm looking forward to it. If you guys have any questions for me, post it in the comments. And we'll catch it on the next one. So, signing off. We appreciate it. Wayne, I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Armando. Take care, everybody.
All right. Bye.